Hey guys, Astro Kit here. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about Saturn in Aries. Saturn goes into Aries on May 24th, 2025. It'll stay there until April 2028. So this is a major transit of one of the outer planets. And just to lock down the timeline for you guys, May 24th is when Saturn officially enters Aries at 11:35 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On September 1st of this year at 4 a.m., Saturn goes into Pisces, so it goes retrograde for a little bit, dips back into Pisces, and then February 13th, 2026, 7:11 p.m., Saturn goes back into Aries, so it will be out of Aries for only like a few months at the end of this year, and then the top of next year it goes back to Aries, and it stays there until April 12th, 2028 at 11:39 p.m., which Saturn will go to Taurus at that point. Now, Saturn represents restrictions, adversities, and how we overcome them. And how we overcome challenges and adversities is with wisdom and knowledge from hurdles and setbacks we've experienced prior. So Saturn is this planet that represents struggle, but usually you achieve something with Saturn only after struggling first. So we're going to see where you're struggling in life a little bit at the beginning of this transit, but what do you ultimately gain or stand to gain from the end of this transit? It is a long one and it feels longer than it usually is. And Saturn is debilitated in Aries. So it's not the best in Aries, but there are some good things that come out of that. Saturn is exalted in Libra, so it does do the best technically in that sign, but Saturn in Aries causes frustration since Aries wants something now, wants it immediately, and then Saturn is about patience. So this transit will test all of our patience on an individual level, wanting to do something, but Saturn is like, how do you think of that practically? How do you plan for that in an organized way? What is the methodical plan here that makes sense? You can't just do something impulsively or brashly. It can lead to harm and less organization if you do it right the first time, where that saying comes up of haste makes waste. So if we just take our time with stuff, usually it comes out fine, but if we try to rush it, it is leading to more problems in the long term, which is that manifestation of Saturn and Aries energy. My personal key take with Saturn and Aries is that it's all about empowerment. How do you empower yourself to achieve independence? And you'll see by the end of this transit, wherever you have Aries in your chart, wherever this transit's happening for you, it's going to be a part of your chart where you're achieving independence, which usually takes a long time, especially if some of us aren't born into situations where we're independent. A lot of us are born into dynamics where we're dependent financially on our family, dependent financially on certain people, dependent financially on a job. But Saturn in Aries is like, okay, how can you do this thing based on the part of your chart it's in on your own? How can you be self-sufficient? How can you push past barriers in order to empower yourself to achieve something without the help of other people? There is this selfishness I see in the collective with Saturn and Aries of wanting to do things by yourself, being motivated, self-motivated, being selfish, not accounting for other people's needs or wants, or kind of disregarding compromise. Again, Saturn's not in Libra right now. It's like Saturn's Aries, Neptune's in Aries, so there's like this lack of wanting to bridge the gap, wanting just to do things on your own, solitarily, and for your own benefit ultimately. Another key point I think is important to know is that it is about fighting for something, which is that archetype of Aries is the warrior. So what are you fighting for based on the house that is transiting in your chart? What are the themes of your life where you have to push past opposition, obstacles, more so authority figures, competition? You get this competitive attitude, wanting to dominate over other people. So you're fighting for something here. There's this theme too of like fighting your fears, facing your fears directly. And that's one of the best things I think that will come out of Saturn and Aries is like it pushes people towards overcoming their fears, but not in a way that's like short-lived, but it's like over the course of a few years you're like, okay, I can handle this thing with a sense of self-sufficiently without being scared of it. So that being said, you can watch this video for your tropical ascendant sign. This is following the tropical timeline of Saturn and Aries. In sidereal astrology right now, Saturn is in Pisces, so that's the difference, but this is following the tropical timeline, so you guys can watch for your tropical ascendant sign, sun sign or moon sign, but mostly your ascendant. So Saturn in Aries for Aries is going to be a significant time for you where you're focused on self-development. This transit is all about independence for you, financial independence, independence in your career. You become motivated and inspired and enthusiastic about achieving something on your own, establishing yourself in the material world, and especially establishing your reputation and identity independent of other people's. The challenges you initially face with this transit is that you are likely attached to someone else when it comes to your family members. You're codependent there, you're attached to someone else in your career, but this is the time period where you go it on your own. You want to have something of your own to hold on to, your own business, your own identity, your own brand, your own name for yourself, and it takes a while to get established there. So some of you guys, I think, are also experiencing a career shift recently, or quitting a job and now you have to join a new job, or get hired at a new job, join a new organization. And that's like a whole thing when you're starting something new, but you're not really young necessarily. It's not like you're fresh out of high school starting a job, but maybe you're a bit older, and that takes a whole nother cycle of establishing yourself somewhere you haven't been before. So this is a theme for a lot of you guys that I've seen in your charts in the past several years, where Saturn just came out of your 12th house, so you're kind of wrapping up karmic experiences and you're starting a whole new cycle in your chart, especially for Aries risings. This cycle lends itself towards your career, your reputation, since Saturn rules your 10th house, rules your 11th house. So this is about forward movement for you and how you can push forward in the world, make a name for yourself, and ultimately have some sort of influence from your own positioning that you established for yourself and you did in an independent way. You're putting more effort into your physical appearance, what you look like, achieving your ideal appearance through exercise, working out, Pilates. That could be a space that you're literally in throughout these next several years, is being in the gym more often, being more dedicated to your workout journey, workout goals. There's a sense here of like no shortcuts. So it's not like you're going to just get your dream body overnight or just imagining it, but you are putting in the work to get there, to look good. There's a sense of refinement here. So you want to start wearing less makeup or doing your hair in a more simple way. When Saturn went through my first house, I just had that transit with Saturn and Pisces. I wore more simple things. I wore like the same thing. Like I would buy a bunch of the same like t-shirt and then wear the same t-shirt basically over and over again, or wear the same hairstyle. You get more simplistic, maybe doing less dramatic makeup or dramatic hair. You're like, okay, let's keep it simple and refine what I look like on a daily basis. Now, what is important here for you, Aries, is that this is aspecting your 7th house. So this has a lot to do with your relationships, how you interact with the public, how you're perceived socially. So this is something you are crafting of yourself, your image, how you behave, your looks, in order to be perceived a certain way by society. And you'll find that something that's magnified in your life with Saturn as Aries is being more polite or diplomatic, or having certain social cues, or dressing up a certain way in order to be perceived differently in certain circles or penetrate certain circles you want to be in. And that takes a while usually to like transform yourself to like this like social butterfly, or transform yourself to someone who has social influence. That is something that is on your agenda with Saturn and Aries, since Saturn, like we're talking about, rules your 11th house. So there's a social aspect for you where you want to appeal socially, where you want independence, but you also want to have an independent name for yourself in social spheres that you're a part of. And that also leads you to setting boundaries and being more strict with who you interact with socially. You aren't just interacting frivolously or making friends in a way that doesn't contribute to your goals, but you are being intentional with who you're interacting with socially. Some people will call it social climbing, but this kind of benefits you when it comes to breaking into certain industries, breaking into certain social spheres. You have to interact with a certain group of people or a certain elite part of the social sphere in order to get where you want. So that is something also on your agenda, I guess, is social climbing, being socially appealing to certain demographics to achieve goals within that arena. Ultimately, Aries, you're in this space where you're empowering yourself, you have the sense of drive, you want to achieve what you want, you're seeing the world in a more realistic way. I think that Saturn in Pisces transit really did a number on you when it comes to understanding the wisdom that you have, how you can apply that to your life. You've had challenges and setbacks and L's that you take in, but now it's the time where you're taking that wisdom you gained from all the challenges and you're applying it to your life, doing things in a realistic manner, in a manner that is methodical and makes sense when it comes to your career, your future goals, and how you create an independent life for yourself. Now for you Taurus, Saturn in Aries is a time for you where you are contemplating on the past. Saturn going through your 12th house puts you behind the scenes when it comes to your work life and when it comes to what you believe. What is your path in life? What is the subconscious patterns that you have that create your lifestyle? So this is a time where you're restructuring your subconscious mind. This is a topic that you become passionate about in the next few years, is subconscious mind meditation, being more active with your dream life, writing down your dreams, taking that more seriously. You can be into hypnosis, for example. And a lot of you guys might know that in order to manifest certain things, and manifesting in general is connected to your subconscious. So if you can restructure your subconscious pattern, you can manifest anything in your material reality, because it all goes back to your subconscious. So this is the realm that you're delving into with Saturn Aries. It benefits you when it comes to your spiritual life, your spiritual routine. You're putting in more effort there, putting in hard work and time into your subconscious mind. And so after putting in all that work, you'll find that it's easier to manifest. For example, once Saturn exits your 12th house, goes to your first house, you're able to see this fluidity with how you can change the reality around you because of the techniques and methods and efforts you put in to learn on your subconscious mind and how to transform your life from that viewpoint. Now, Saturn rules your 10th house, it rules your 9th house. So this has a lot to do with your career as well. A lot of you guys might have careers where you become more behind the scenes in the next couple years or so. You take on a position where maybe you were more customer facing before, but now you're like behind the scenes, controlling things behind the curtain. You could be in a career, switch to an industry that's more isolated. So you might feel more isolated at work because it's the kind of job that maybe it's like fishing or like a night job that's after hours, so there's not a lot of people awake. So there's this dynamic where you might be a little bit more alone at work or feel isolated, feel like you're on an island professionally. So you feel a little bit more isolated professionally, but what's also happening for you is that you are working on closing out a certain chapter in your professional life. You've been in a certain industry for a while, you're ready to close that out. A lot of you guys might be retiring if you're in that space of life, taking a break from working for a while. I think that's what usually happens. I've seen a lot of times with Saturn transiting the 12th house. It's like, okay, I am going on sabbatical. I'm going on leave, maybe pregnancy leave, maternity leave. For some reason, you have to take a break from work, and that could be injury related. It could be like workers' comp related. You could be less active professionally for whatever reason at some point during this time, which can be frustrating, and you learn a lot of lessons and gain a lot of wisdom from being isolated or cut off from your professional sphere that leads you to different industries or different lanes, switching lanes after the break that you have professionally. So I think a lot of you guys will have to put in more effort when it comes to defending yourself against enemies. You could have like a dynamic with authority figures at some point. Maybe you have issue with your job or people that you work with. It's an issue that's deep rooted to the point where it's hard to get out of, or it's hard to solve. So this issue that you have with your job or with authority figures at work, it might lead to you getting fired or not working there anymore. And there's this sense of hidden enemies with the 12th house. So it's like you have this opposition coming against you. So you have to learn how to be more clever or wise to combat certain forces or fight back, so to speak, but not doing it in a way that's overt or in a way that results in you losing, but you want to obviously win over on your enemies. So that could be an ongoing issue with Saturn going through your 12th, is these issues with enemies, hidden enemies, authority figures, or your job, which can be an enemy figure to you. So I think the greatest thing that comes out of this transit for you, Taurus, is that you're going to be overcoming limiting beliefs. There's this theme here of Saturn Aries of like pushing past limits, pushing past what's already restricted. So I feel like for you, you're like pushing past subconscious mentalities that you've had for a long time that you didn't even know that you had, and it's like affecting your life in a negative way, which goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning, where subconscious work is so important, dream work is so important, because it's revealed to you through your subconscious like what your future is or what you feel called to. And so when you have this significant transit like you're having, you're able to like look into your subconscious mind, dig stuff out, rearrange stuff, and then have a clearer subconscious mind or more structured subconscious mind. So a lot of you guys will be doing activities that relate to overcoming your subconscious beliefs, but it takes a lot of time effort. You're doing shadow work, hypnosis, journaling, meditating, all those sort of things that contribute to having a subconscious mind that promotes the reality that you want in the future. Now for you, Gemini, Saturn's going through your 11th house. So this means for you that you are putting an effort into your social sphere, your social influence. You can find that over the next couple years, you grow in social influence, and it's because you are putting in a strategic effort to have a platform for yourself socially. This is a time where you're studying social strategies, like 48 Laws of Power, for example. There's like a lot of books on that topic. Like there's a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. So all these social strategies, you might be reading those sort of books and gaining wisdom from those books in order to penetrate certain social networks you want to be a part of. You could be like social climbing, so to speak, more so in the next couple of years. You want to put yourself and elevate yourself in certain social circles you weren't a part of before. And that takes energy, that takes effort, and social acumen that you'll be building over the next several years. And this transit for you will change the dynamic that you have with your peers. So this is a time period where you find yourself rising out of the collective of your peers. You become a leader to your peers. You look around you and think to yourself like, okay, I don't want to be a part of this sort of generalized demographic. And now you're like, okay, I want to be in this demographic. I want to put myself in this place. And I think this transit for you is a lot about social elevation, putting yourself socially in places that you weren't before, and differentiating yourself from your peers in order to move in different directions in your life. It also helps you to put structure to your dreams, so you're putting a lot of effort to your manifestations, and not just in a way that's hardworking or just mindlessly being obsessed with your manifestations, but you are using strategies to manifest certain things. You're taking your manifestations more seriously. There are delays that can happen with your gains or fulfillment of your wishes, given the nature of Saturn here, but you learn through those delays that, hey, this is actually a smarter way of doing something that maybe you didn't do it before, but it's because of that delay that you actually saw the solution that was more efficient than the one that you initially used. So Saturn's putting you to work here in the 11th house of building your dream life, like literally building it, putting structure to your ideas, your visions, taking them very seriously. And the great thing for you, Gemini, at the end of this transit is that once you build those things, build your reality like you want it to, it's has the likelihood to be more permanent for you. It cannot be taken from you, whereas other transits, for example, like Rahu transiting the houses, whatever you gain based on the house that Rahu transits can kind of be superficial or taken away, so to speak, by the end of the transit. But with Saturn transiting your 11th house, like whatever you create for yourself, your status, your image, your success, it is more permanent for you and creates your long-lasting legacy here. This puts your mind on like your global impact. So I think out of all the signs, you're really thinking about the collective with Saturn and Aries, where we talked about in the beginning, it's kind of a selfish transit where the collective at large is kind of more selfish, but I think you're kind of putting that selfishness towards bigger goals that you have of how you can influence the world, how you can help society. Maybe you want to be like a leader and you eventually become one during this transit, like an activist, a leader within like philanthropy circles or charity circles, become a leader at work, school, religious. So there's this influence that you have with Saturn and Aries that impacts other people around you, teaching them things and gaining status, not just to gain status selfishly, but doing it in a way that actually helps the collective at large because of the leadership purpose that you have and the mission that you have with your pursuit to the top. And Saturn and Aries might put you in a bit of a weird spot socially where you are a leader, you become an authority figure to your peers and people that you work with or at school, at work, but you might be kind of a bit rejected or you feel like a loner at times during this transit. Your position is important and you influence people and you give people orders and stuff like that, but at the same time you might not feel like a warm friendliness, especially since Neptune's conjunct Saturn in your 11th house right now, and for the next couple years you feel a sense of isolation, but at the same time you have this burden of influencing or leading other people and taking charge. So for you, Cancer, Saturn going through your 10th house is an important transit for you where you're able to see your career goals manifest more structuredly, to experience elevation in your professional life and become an authority figure in your career sphere. This is a time period where you're going full throttle towards your goals. You have have tunnel vision. Saturn does great in the 10th house. Now, where it might be a bit challenging for you is where we're having this conjunction of Neptune, where that's happening in your 10th house as well. So you have this push forward and structure that you want to lay down in your career and goals that you want to achieve, but it can be a little bit confusing at times. You can have enemies or people that aren't working in your favor trying to stop you, but ultimately overcoming those obstacles, adversities, people that are kind of not working on your side of things will push you to have a sense of tenacity and resilience when it comes to achieving things in your career that might take a while, but after the first initial setbacks, you see that you do achieve that success later on. This is an important time for you when it comes to your career overall. So whatever you achieve in the next couple years is establishing your legacy. It'll linger on beyond Saturn and Aries. It'll, shape who you are to the public's mind for a while. So be aware of what you're doing professionally, what you're doing when it comes to the public, your public image, because this is the point in your life where it kind of will stick for you if you do it the right way or you do it a certain way for the rest of your life. And you're experiencing this sense of empowerment in your professional life. You want to empower yourself to be a business owner, to be an entrepreneur. This is a great transit for you to pursue that journey. It's going to be challenging, or there's obstacles, but nothing worth having comes easily. And Saturn here is going to give you that sense of perseverance to pursue harsh goals or pursue challenging things. I think a lot of you guys will probably be in your career the youngest person doing something or youngest person achieving something. So usually when you're the youngest or you're the rookie, everyone else is doubting you. People aren't thinking that you're going to succeed in the future. You are pushing past those doubts of the public, of people around you, even authority figures, to achieve what you want in your career. And Saturn naturally rules your 7th house. It rules your 8th house. So this is really important for you when it comes to your public image, how people perceive you. We were talking about legacy earlier, which is tied more to the 8th house, but 7th house ruler transiting your 10th house, it's you want to be perceived in a way that is favorable. You're building up your reputation. And once you establish your reputation, you can have more ease when it comes to getting the jobs that you want, achieving the goals that you want, because people already see okay, they're established, we respect them. So you're on this journey, maybe starting this year, where maybe you're entering a new industry, entering a new school, a new sphere socially, and now you have to establish yourself there, even though you might have doubters, haters, whoever. But once you establish yourself, I think that's what you're putting effort into, is how you're perceived socially, social strategies, PR. Maybe you hire a PR person, you take PR classes, media training for whatever reason. And ultimately you want to be presented to the public in a way that is favorable. You're concerned a lot about your reputation, your career, and how you're perceived by the public throughout this transit. And it's likely that you'll be in a career where you are an authority figure at some point. You get a promotion, you experience elevation professionally. And so with this position of leadership that you'll take on, it comes with burdens. It comes with a lot of people to manage. It comes with more obstacles and dealing with problems every day, problem solving on a regular basis. So work is probably going to consume you a lot. I think for most Cancers in the next couple years, it's not only are you doing this job, but you're doing everything that comes with it and dealing with it outside of work hours. And suddenly you go from 9 to 5 to 24/7. And that's something you can see too with entrepreneurship or building your own business. It's all day, every day, blood, sweat, and tears, hours and hours, 10,000 hours. It's gonna take your all. It's gonna be something you put a lot of effort into, but once, like we're talking about, it's established, then it's established. Once it's up, it's stuck, and you have this longevity in your life based on what you're able to create and cultivate through hard work and effort right here, right now, with Saturn and Aries transit. Now for you, Leo, Saturn and Aries transit is important when it comes to your belief system and your spiritual attitude. This is a time where your beliefs become more rigid and refined. So you've been on a journey in the past couple years where Saturn was going through your 8th house, which brought you challenges, adversities, and what comes out of adversities and challenges is wisdom. So you're taking that wisdom that you've gained from challenges you've experienced the past couple years and applying it to your life moving forward. I think with Saturn going through your 9th house here, it's gonna make you very realistic about the world. It's not just blind optimism or hopefulness, but you feel this sense of courageousness when it comes to facing your reality, facing the harsh truths of life. But through this realistic view of things, you're able to decide things for yourself in a more methodical manner, be more decisive in general. I think this energy of Saturn in your ninth makes you more judgmental and critical of things. So before you make a decision, before you go down a certain path, you're going to be really judgmental of that decision, really critical of the outcomes of it, where that's the biggest mark of maturity. It's like before, when you're younger, you do things without thinking, you do it impulsively, but now Saturn here is kind of stopping you energetically of like, okay, what did you learn from that L that you took a couple years ago, and how can you apply that wisdom now for your future and have this long-term success that might take a while? But Saturn is basically teaching you a sense of foresight here. How can you have a future for yourself and see into the future in a way that makes sense, that's methodical, and it's not too delusional. It's a little bit hopeful, but it's mostly pragmatic and realistic. And I think for you, Leo, you feel very empowered by your belief system during this transit. Whatever your philosophy is right now in life, your belief system, it becomes more strengthened here, and it becomes more structured. You're able to write it out. You're able to write your own personal, like, 10 commandments of what you believe, or write down your favorite quotes that you like that, you know, help shape your mentality or consciousness. And through this ability to recognize your own philosophy and beliefs, you're going to change your reality around you from this core framework that you're working from. And I think a lot of you guys will be in positions professionally where this core framework, this mentality, philosophy that you have will be something that you use to teach other people. You could enter the teaching profession at some point during this transit in the next couple of years. You start guiding people, giving your wisdom to people. In fact, that could be a profitable career avenue for a lot of you guys with this transit, is teaching, guiding, even if it is through like spiritual methods like tarot, reading people's charts. Maybe you want to be a teacher like at a school more traditionally, or be a professor, pursue higher education. And through this knowledge that you gain with Saturn and Aries, it helps you help the world, helps you teach other people things, help society, where we're talking about this element of selfishness with Saturn and Aries. But you could be selfishly pursuing your own like knowledge journey that is pertinent to your beliefs and stuff, but then also using that knowledge that you have to give back to other people, help other people, and help society in the way that enriches them and teaches them valuable lessons and information. Some of you guys could even be going overseas for work, or doing something professionally that takes you abroad, it takes you traveling, something where you start a new career at some point during this transit and you want to travel for work, you want to do something that is out of your regular wheelhouse in terms of scheduling, not having a career that's 9 to 5, but doing one that involves you being in different places at different times and not being in one place every single day on the same timetable. And in general, I see a lot of you guys becoming more of an advisor in your career, a leader, someone who guides other people. Some of you guys could be pursuing a legal degree, your law degree, you want to be a lawyer, you want to be in this position where you're giving information, knowledge, judging things, categorizing and assessing information is all relevant here with Saturn going through your 9th house. And where I think you're empowering yourself the most is past your limiting beliefs. I think Saturn here is going to transform your beliefs, but also reinforce what you already know, what you've already experienced. Basically, you've gained all this wisdom and you've distilled it down into like these tenets that are more succinct and more structured. And that's where that teaching aspect comes in here with the 9th house, where you're able to like distill the knowledge, and then you have the basically the 10 commandments of like what you believe and philosophies and top quotes, and then you can like give that to other people. Some of you guys might even write a book or feel more, I feel like you guys will just feel more like Socrates during this transit, like feel really like into like writing down your thoughts, writing down your philosophies, being really rigid about it. And I think you're empowering yourself to overcome what you've believed in the past, and whether or not that was logical or pragmatic, and assessing your consciousness level in a way that makes sense for the context of society, the context of your life, and how those two things intersect and transform you overall. And you're becoming more of an independent thinker throughout this time period. You want to instill your own ideas into your life. You're kind of stubborn during this time, where it's not like you're easily influenced or easily brainwashed. That's something else that might be becoming undone during this time, where you gain certain brainwashing or certain, during your childhood you were taught a certain way or socialized a certain way with certain things, but then you let go of that and build your own framework, build your own beliefs, your own self-concept with this energy in your 9th house. And through this ability to be an independent thinker, you help lead, teach, and guide the new generation coming up. Now for you, Virgo, Saturn is going through your 8th house, so this presents a challenging time for you when it comes to finances, income, outcome, and financial stability. This is the time where you're pursuing financial independence but face roadblocks on the way to that when it comes to managing your money for the future, managing your debt, having unexpected expenses. There are financial challenges you have on the horizon based on this transit. But what Saturn is teaching you here throughout the next several years is about how to overcome limitations when it comes to money, financial constraints. You're learning about budgeting, and this could be through hardship, through unexpected crises. So it will pull out of you a sense of perseverance and tenacity when it comes to facing obstacles with money, with finances, especially shared resources. So this financial hardship could be between you and your spouse, you and a family member, somebody you share your money with. You could get into debt or have to pay off debt at some point, and figure out how you're going to manage your money in a way that makes sense, that's logical, but also sustains your lifestyle that you're living now. And where you might have to fight during this transit is in the court system, in legal issues or legal battles. There could be some sort of money that you're owed or settlement that you're owed, and you have to take it to the courts for whatever reason. This could be like a custody battle, a battle of rights to property or rights to intellectual property. I would say out of all the signs, you guys should really be careful of the contracts that you sign in the next coming years or months, especially this year, because it's easy to get into a contract. It's harder to get out of it. And since Saturn naturally rules your 6th house, there is this increased likelihood of having to be involved in litigation disputes based on contracts that you've signed. For some of you guys, the litigations that you're going through is divorce. So you have to manage the assets, divide the assets, or you go through splitting of assets, and that can always be a bit of a challenge when it comes to legally who owns what between you and your spouse or your ex-partner. But what you do gain by the end of this transit is a sense of resilience. There's a lot of adversities put in your path throughout this time period in your life and your lifestyle, especially pertaining to your money and your resources. But how you overcome that with the wisdom that you gain will prove what you need to know when it comes to this theme of Saturn testing you. Saturn testing what you are able to do despite adversities, despite obstacles. How can you overcome that with a sense of maturity, calmness, and a logical attitude? Libra, Saturn's going through your 7th house, so this has a huge impact on your social connectivity, how you socialize with other people, how you appeal to the public. This is your focus with Saturn and Aries, is altering your social strategy. So you have a goal that you want to achieve when it comes to your social status, the platform you want to be in, the social circles you want to run in. So you have to employ certain strategies. For example, there's a lot of books about that, like 48 Laws of Power or How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. So those social strategy ideas, books, philosophies will help you throughout this transit, and something you're more interested in. You become more in this realm of mastering your social connectivity with other people, how you appeal to them, and ultimately being this person that's a social butterfly, but in a way that supports your goals, supports your career, and is taken seriously when it comes to your social networks. You're putting in more effort into your public appeal, how you're perceived by people. You can meet more people in general during this time period that are mature or older than you, doing business with people that are older than you. It might just kind of attract an older crowd to you for whatever reason. You could be the youngest person on a team in your professional sphere, in your career, so you kind of have to prove yourself, so to speak, amongst older people. If they see you as young and inexperienced or as a rookie, you do want to establish yourself socially as someone that is an authority figure to be taken seriously. So where you might face obstacles and delays is in partnership related endeavors. So legally, you could be involved in some litigation disputes. You could also be involved in disputes with your spouse over property. If you're going through a divorce, maybe you're going through a separation at some point during this transit and you have to divide up your assets and resources with your spouse. There's also likelihood of negotiating contracts that takes longer than it should, or you are being more scrutinizing over contracts, which is a good idea with Saturn going through your 7th, to look over what you're signing legally, because it's easy to get into a contract, it's harder to get out of it. Some of you guys might be in the situation where you are in a contract that's not favorable, so you're putting in effort to get out of it, going through obstacles and delays of all the legal framework and methods it takes to get out of a contract that doesn't favor you. Especially since Neptune's in your 7th house as well, conjunct Saturn for the next couple of years, you have to be more aware of shady paperwork, shady contracts, reading it, having a lawyer reading it, double, triple reading it, just so you have that peace of mind that the contract that you're entering is fruitful and in your best interest. This is a time where you're gaining more independence from your spouse, your partner. So although you're in a partnership, you are committed to someone, this is a time period where you want to branch out of that sphere of enmeshment or codependency that could have been a theme for you in your life at some point, is being too attached to your partner, or compromising too much with them, or people pleasing too much. But I think with this transit Libra, you're standing up for yourself more, setting boundaries, and becoming a more independent force within your partnership. And these boundaries that you set with your partner will change the dynamic of your relationship with them. A lot of you guys can go under a whole shift of power in the partnership that you're in already, where maybe you become in a more powerful position, maybe you become the breadwinner, or your spouse usually had that role. So there's like a switching of roles here, and kind of navigating the fallout that comes after that of having these relationship changes while still being in a relationship and trying to alter your lifestyle while compromising it with someone else. And for those of you guys that are single, this is a time where you get more into your standards, your commitment requirements. What does it require to date you? What is your list of standards that you have for people? You take your dating life more seriously here, especially since Saturn actually rules your 5th house. You have your 5th house ruler transiting the 7th house. So you do want a relationship, you do want a commitment with someone, but it does take effort to get you there, or it does take a certain person with certain lifestyle, with certain achievements to actually get you into a relationship. So there's this theme here of you kind of distancing yourself out and like surveying the field before you hop into something too impulsively. It benefits you, Libra, out of all the signs, since Aries rules your 7th house, so you can be one to be a little bit impulsive in relationships and getting into relationships quickly, but Saturn's going to stop you here and be like, wait, do they meet your standards? Do they match your lifestyle? Is this someone you want to be with long term? You're seeing relationships with a more mature foresight than you have before with Saturn and Aries in your 7th house. Now for you, Scorpio, this is a time period where you get very competitive. You put a lot of energy and effort into being the best version of yourself, especially when it comes to your career. There is a position you're going to be in the next couple of years where you can achieve something that elevates your status, that does align with your higher goals, but you kind of have to work to get there. You have to overcome adversity, obstacles, enemies, competition, but this sense of determination is inspiring you with Saturn in your 6th. Saturn favors you, Scorpio, with this transit since it helps you to overcome your own bad habits, your own negative influences, anything in your diet, your routine, your health regimen that isn't supporting you achieving your long-term goals is going to be altered for you, and you're going to rework your whole schedule, rework your whole routine, what you're eating, what you're consuming, in order to be the most productive version of yourself. And you'll be put into positions where you have to fight more against your enemies, against your competition. This could be at work, not literally, of course, fighting, but being in a position where you have to appear like the best candidate for something, the best candidate for a job, for opportunity, and you'll be in this position of sharpness where you want to sharpen your skills, sharpen your social skills, your speaking abilities, how you appear physically in order to beat out the competition and be seen as the best at what you do. It's you guys being more of a workaholic throughout these next couple of years of putting so much effort into your professional journey, into your work, and kind of forgetting about anything else. And that usually is what it takes as a recipe to achieve something, is like putting your blood, sweat, and tears and everything into a certain goal to achieve it. And I think a lot of you guys will be on that path of no matter what, no days off, achieving your goals, being consistent, and putting in a lot of energy to overcome adversity and competition to achieve the big goals that you have for yourself. Now, one of the challenges you might face is enemies, like we've been talking about. So there can be kind of like this persistent sense of enemies, especially at work for a lot of you Scorpios, of somebody that doesn't want to see you win, somebody's trying to get you fired, somebody isn't on your team, so to speak, in the professional sphere. So you have to like combat that in ways that are professional, that are, not so overtly combative. And this inimical dynamic can be seen with your family members, since Saturn naturally rules your 4th house or rules your 3rd house, which represents siblings. So you could be in some sort of legal dispute with your family members at some point. Maybe it's over property or inheritance. There is this combative energy you could have with family members over a certain dispute that's existing within your family dynamic as we speak right now. Ultimately, Scorpio, you are being challenged during this transit to be more disciplined, be resilient, overcome adversities, and by the end of it, you'll be this person who's very strong mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Now, for you Sagittarius, you're going through the Saturn Aries transit through your 5th house. So this means that you are taking your creative projects more seriously, what you do in a fun sense. This is something you want to turn into your career. So it's likely that you turn one of your hobbies or one of your creative passions into your career at some point during this transit, and you're inspired to be more independent when it comes to your creativity. So I see a lot of you guys, based on your chart here, it's like you're rising out of the collective, going against the grain, away from trends, and kind of doing your own thing creatively, and it could pay off for you a lot when it comes to this idea of selling your art, marketing yourself in the creative world, and being this person other people haven't seen your creativity before, but it's still inspiring and it still attracts an audience to you, or attracts the ability to make money. And I do think for a lot of you guys, you're putting in energy and effort to mastering your craft, mastering your specific discipline and the creative works that you do. A lot of times we see creative performances, but there's so much work that goes behind it. So a lot of you guys are putting in that work during these next couple years into being a great dancer, the best that you can be, being a great painter, being a great public speaker, singer, and all those blood, sweat, and tears you put into that certain craft produces this beautiful product that will be on display to the world, or be a profession or career for you in the long term. Now, where you might have to fight, so to speak, during this time is having your creative ideas seen or heard. A lot of times people have these creative ideas that they pitch to people or pitch to a professional group of people, but then it's not accepted or it's rejected. So you might be facing rejection at some point when it comes to pursuing your dreams creatively or pursuing your passions. It's not always that easy to get hired for something that's like your creative dream, but you're kind of pushing past those obstacles. You keep trying, the sense of repetition towards achieving your professional goals that does align with your personal passions. And speaking of creativity, one challenge you might face is roadblocks when it comes to like creative expression. So we see that as like writer's block, wanting to create something or having a project and just drawing a blank, not being able to create it. So on this creative journey that you're on throughout the next couple of years, there's a lot of despair or draining energy that you feel, where you want to quit, or you feel defeated, you feel like it's not coming out like you want, and it's like this perfectionist attitude towards your creativity. So it can be a little bit exhausting in that sense, where you put too much serious energy or refinement, perfectionist energy towards your creations to the point where it does drain you. But honestly, a lot of people who are artistic or have creative projects are usually obsessed with those projects to the point that they are perfect in their eyes. So a lot of you guys are on that journey or relate to that trope throughout this transit of the obsessed artist or perfectionist. Now let's talk career. So when it comes to your career, we talked about you might be doing one of your hobbies as a career, pursuing a passion of yours that is creative in your profession. But a lot of you guys might start working with kids, maybe even working on getting credentials so you can work with kids. Maybe that's one of your passions, is working with kids. If you have kids already, you might find that whatever your kids are doing, it's like time consuming in your life for the next couple years. So your kids kind of are maybe, what's like a really busy time in a kid's life? Pretty much their whole life, right? But like maybe your kids are going to high school, maybe they're like toddlers, so you can feel kind of burdened there when it comes to your parenthood journey and wanting to put effort into your creative projects or do other things, but then your child needs you first. So that's like your first concern. Your kids are getting older, so they need different attention at different stages. So you're consumed in that parenthood journey, and that's going to be taking a lot of your time and energy, and where you have to put a lot of effort or faced obstacles and adversities in your parenthood journey in the couple years ahead of us. But ultimately, you're empowering yourself over the next several years when it comes to your creative ideas, backing up what you want to do creatively, even if other people don't see your vision, they don't want to support it or financially fund it. You have this pioneer essence in you towards creating something the world hasn't seen before and backing up your own creative abilities in order to create the projects you want to see in the world. Now for you Capricorn, you are ruled by Saturn, so this means your chart ruler is going through your 4th house. This is a really important transit for you. This is a time period in your life where you kind of look back on the past and how that's shaped your identity here in the present. This has a lot to do with your family dynamics and the family dynamic you grew up in and how that's impacted you. And a lot of you guys, this leads you on a journey of healing when it comes to those family patterns, psychological burdens you inherit familially. We hear this theme of like breaking generational curses or breaking generational patterns. So this is a journey you're embarking on with Saturn in Aries. Is you want to go to therapy to heal certain psychological wounds you gained in childhood. You want to talk to a psychologist, maybe go to family therapy to heal your dynamics within your family members. You confront certain family members about things that happened in the past. So you're kind of dealing with loose ends here when it comes to what's happened for you already and how that impacts your future ahead of you. And of course, psychologically, it's kind of hard to move forward without acknowledging the past. And usually people kind of reconcile those things through things like therapy or whatever is therapeutic to you. And through that, you're able to have this sense of mental healing and mental relief of dealing what has already happened and integrating it into the future version of yourself and future lifestyle you want to create for yourself. It also puts a major redirection in your life since, again, your chart ruler's involved here. So it's like you were going in one direction or had this one vision or plan for yourself, and then that gets redirected to another lane. And this could be something that's relevant to your hometown. So maybe you guys moved to a different city or different country and then that didn't work out. So you come back home and then maybe you feel a little bit disappointment with that, or you don't really want to move back home, but you have to for some reason, financial reasons or family issues that you have to deal with. And so dealing with the burdens that come with where you've come from already, dealing with family burdens can be strong for you without this transit. Where you are empowering yourself is in your family. So you want to gain that independence from your family. And this is financial independence, energetic independence, psychological independence. There's this theme here of like enmeshment a lot of times with family dynamics or 4th house energy. So Saturn going through your 4th in Aries of all signs, it's like you want to be able to be independent from them without needing them, without having to rely on people in your family, because it can cause toxic cycles to continue that relate to enmeshment or codependency. And overall, you can kind of feel this pull of your family kind of being a burden for you for whatever reason and wanting independence, but maybe feeling guilt and shame about wanting independence because your family needs you. So you have to deal with it emotionally, psychologically. But ultimately, your goal here is independence, and that's probably one of the main things you'll achieve with this transit. And this also leads some of you guys to getting more curious about your ancestry, your family history. So you could be doing a deep dive of your ancestors, who they were, doing like your genealogy, maybe getting one of those ancestry DNA tests to see your ethnicity breakdown, and getting into like the lore of your family line helps to like enrich you when it comes to your future, because you understand the foundational essence of where you come from in terms of your ancestors. So for you Aquarius, Saturn in Aries is an opportunistic time for you to expand your repertoire when it comes to the skills that you have. This is a specific time period where you enhance your speaking skills, your writing skills, and overall communication skills. And it's likely you're going to school at some point during this transit. You want to enhance your public speaking skills. You want to learn a different language. You want to increase your education by going to college, getting your master's. It's all about gaining information, gaining knowledge, and using the knowledge that you already have to improve your lifestyle, improve your professional resume. This is a time where you have to be competitive for whatever reason, especially in your professional sphere. There are a lot of candidates for a certain job. There are a lot of competition in the industry you want to be in, and so you have to figure out how to stand out, how to use your abilities in terms of speech, how you express yourself, how you present yourself to others, how you market yourself to gain more success in your professional sphere. And this is another topic you could be studying more just in general throughout this time period, is how to market yourself, marketing, social strategies. I was talking about that with like the other air signs who are having like a similar transit here of like the air houses being activated 3, 7, 11. So what happens here is you think more about social strategy, so like 48 laws of power type stuff, or like How to Win Friends and Influence People is a book by Dale Carnegie that is really influential when it comes to this theme of social strategy. So this is what your arena is with Saturn and Aries, is how to reach out to people socially, how to appeal to certain demographics, how to do like marketing campaigns and stuff. And that is an industry you might find yourself in, is like the media industry. You want to work for a PR company, you want to be a private rep for like a celebrity. Of course, we have to talk about the fact that Saturn rules your chart. So your chart ruler being in the 3rd house makes it so that you want to improve yourself in terms of what is it around you in your environment that is making you the best version of yourself. So I see for a lot of you guys, you want to do different things in your environment that you haven't done before. Once Saturn goes into your 3rd house, you want to rearrange your routine, what you do every day. Maybe the normal 9-to-5 structure isn't working for you, so you're trying to like change your like job, your career. It's likely that you become involved in industries that deal with advertising, marketing, social media marketing, and maybe you want to work for like a startup business, or you want to start your own business. You are putting initiative out there in order to have more success in your professional sphere. I feel like a lot of you guys are like dashing away your resume, dashing away your cover letter, like the templates that you use right now, and then Saturn and Aries is going to push out of you like how to make the best resume for yourself. How can you market yourself in the best way on social media or on your LinkedIn page? All these media sources that we use for professional success in the modern day world is what you're becoming the master of with Saturn and Aries. And even within that, you become like a teacher to other people. Maybe you start teaching people how to improve their social media presence or how to market themselves in the world. If you're more in like a seniority sort of position, you already have the knowledge that is required for those sort of topics, and you teach other people, and that becomes a job for you or a side hustle. And similar to Leos, since they're having Saturn go through the opposite house, the 9th house, what I was talking to them about is this sense of intellectual independence, this independence when it comes to thought and ideas. And you guys are like in that same boat where the philosophies, the ideas that you come up with during this time period might be clashing with the public or clashing with your peers, and other people are kind of rejecting them or wanting to ostracize you for your ideas. But it's this sense of pioneering with what you're saying or pioneering with your philosophies that will actually help other people or even change the landscape of your profession. So you have something to say or communicate, and you're really headstrong about it. You have this strong sense of conviction with your ideas and your philosophies, and through this energy you're able to change people's minds and mentalities, but only because you have that independent mind first, and that sense of pioneering when it comes to what you have to say and bring to the world and teach other people. That's an arena you might have to fight for the next couple of years, is fighting to be heard, fighting to be seen. This sense of competitiveness is really strong for you in terms of like pursuing the job that you want, getting hired where you want to work in. It's like you have to put in all this effort and social outreach and how you're perceived and considering all of these things in order to achieve the top spot or achieve what you ultimately desire. This is also where you might have to fight in the next couple years, fight against your peers, so to speak, or fight against classmates when it comes to like your intellectual ideas, like standing up for what you believe in, even if no one else believes it. You're 10 toes behind your own beliefs, what you have to say, and being really strongly rooted in what you think is the truth and what you want to pursue when it comes to your intellectual standpoints. This can manifest literally for a lot of people. So like I could see some of you guys joining, if you're like in school, like debate team, mock trial. You might want to become a lawyer. You might be in positions where you have to defend people. It's like a what do you call it? Like a public defender. You'll be in positions where you have to argue verbally. So there's careers that are centered around that. Some people just do that online all day. So that's something you might find yourself in, or arenas you might find yourself in, is communicating with people and public outreach, but also kind of arguing with people or having to argue or doing it in a legal sense. But ultimately, you are empowering yourself when it comes to your skill set, your ideas, what you believe about the world, your belief in yourself, and your belief that you can initiate something on your own and achieve independence in what you do desire. Now for your Pisces, Saturn impacts your finances in a significant way in the next several years. So there's going to be restrictions or limitations placed on you financially. You could be going through financial hardship and needing to strategize and use a sense of logic to get out of any financial struggles that you're in currently. And this will cause you to put more effort into your finances, put more effort into financial income, thinking of different ways, innovative ways to make money. There are major transformations going on within your financial life where you have to adapt to how society is now. For example, adapt to the industry that you're in and make those necessary changes in order to make income that will sustain you and sustain the lifestyle you're used to. And ultimately, I would say for you Pisces, you're on this journey with Saturn and Aries of financial independence. So whatever that looks like to you, being independent from your family, being independent from needing money from your parents, being independent enough to pay your bills and rent every month. Especially now, there's this landscape in society where the job market's not great. Financial income is a challenge for a lot of younger people in the workforce these days. So you guys are kind of like in the brunt of that. I can't really sugarcoat that, but it is good to know transits because this gives you an idea of how long that struggle will last, how you can use this transit to your benefit, which is why you're watching this video, because it helps you to understand what you're actually going through in order to adapt to it better. Naturally, in your chart, Saturn does rule your 11th house, or rules your 12th house. So Saturn does have a lot to do with your gains, how you gain income. And I think with this transit, you're going to learn how to use wisdom from the past, think about how you've made money in the past and how you can make money in the future based on skills that you have. What do you already have within you that could be a resource that could be turned into revenue for you? Usually you already have some sort of specific talent or skill or wisdom that you can give to people, since how you make money is about services. So what can you monetize about what you know, about the knowledge that you know, and that could lead to more money for you. So there's some like obvious ways you can make money, but then there's also some challenging ways that might find its way into your life about how you receive income. You could be relying on a certain income right now, and then that is taken from you for whatever reason. You are a part of like a contractual obligation that sort of falls through, or somebody owes you money and then you don't get it. So there's just kind of like expected income that you were hoping for and then not getting it. So what Saturn is calling out of you is a sense of independence financially, resilience to overcome adversities financially, and being able to gain enough financial knowledge and acumen to manage your finances and budget more logically in the future. And this could be a good time for a lot of you guys to mostly save your money, and that's kind of like your attitude towards money with Saturn and Aries is saving it, maybe hoarding it, opening up a retirement account. Maybe you have to dip back into some savings accounts that were not to be opened yet because you need certain financial income. At this point, you want to be less frivolous with money and be more mature about how you make money, what you gain, and how you budget it after all that.